afternoon, sports fans from all around the globe. I am your host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors, and this is your closing bell for Friday, September 9th, 2022, live from Las Vegas. I am right now inside my suite at the Grand Desert Wyndham Resort, about one block from Topgolf. Anyone familiar with Vegas? About a quick 8-minute walk straight up the strip. To the strip, I should say. Today, my co-host, Scott Webb, be good to have a show back with him. It's been a while. And then our second half of the show, the debut of Mr. Lucky himself, Lucky's Lobby or Lucky's Corner. I like to call it LOX and Bagels, as Mr. Lucky will talk about this week in the NFL. He was at the Rams game yesterday. And then the last 15 minutes, we'll talk about week one of the CIRCA Contest that he is involved in. So be interested to see what he sees as traps, or as I like to say, landmines and gold mines. So without further ado, let's bring in my co-host, the one and only Mr. Scott E. Webb. Afternoon, Scott.
Hey, Jeff. It's been real hot down here in Florida. I know it's hot where you are, but I mean, it's been real hot. But today, it's been really wet. It's raining like hell all day long. And it doesn't normally do that.
Well, I can tell you, I was a week late of the floods here. I guess they had some real floods. Last night, I guess there was a dust storm on the strip. And yesterday, I shuttered down early, grabbed myself a pizza and wings, and I watched the NFL game, the Rams and the Bills. For all the fantasy guys, Josh Allen, Gabriel Davis, Stephon Diggs, great day. For the Rams side, Cooper Kupp and a cloud of dust. I'll quickly go over my thoughts on last night's game. A game that opened up in June, the Rams -1, quickly went to a pick'em, Bills -1. Stafford's elbow to 2.5 and stayed at 2.5 on Tuesday night. Chris Andrews of the South Point good friends moved that line to 3 for 12 minutes, got some Rams money that he needed, and moved it back to 2.5. My quick initial thoughts, Rams fortunate enough to be 10-10 at half, a 57-yard field goal by Mr. Gay to tie it there. McVay, poor offensive thought process not to try to get Allen Robinson off early. You're not going to win with no running game and just Cooper Kupp. Defensively, obviously, Von Miller with a chip on his shoulder. I think you wish you re-signed him. The Bills, the favorites not only to win the AFC, but to win the Super Bowl. I tell you what, Scotty, Josh Allen had the look. I mean, you talk about poised, someone as confident as that. Three incomplete passes the whole game. 2 of them should have been caught. Just flat out. I'm telling you, I know the MVP had to have go down a couple $100 after last night's performance.
Well, I will tell you, I was on the wrong side. I played the Rams. And what I saw last night is I saw the Super Bowl team in there. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. There's no team better than the Buffalo Bills. There's not. You can have any of these guys come in these lanes and they can tell you whatever they want to tell you about the Buffalo Bills. But they are better than any other team in the NFL. They just are. What surprised me, and the reason why I bet the Rams, I got late word that it was hot. And I got late word that they weren't going to play in a dome. They were going to be opened, and it was going to be 100 degrees on the field. So I thought that was a bad effect on Buffalo. And then I didn't understand how Buffalo's defense was going to be able to hold on to the Rams receivers because their number one cornerback was out. So I thought that was a big advantage to the Rams. And theoretically, I thought the Rams probably should have been favored in the game because of the deficits of what was going on in the game because of Buffalo. Well, obviously it turned out to be Buffalo was way more dominant. Josh Allen is probably We haven't seen these guys play yet, but you haven't seen the quarterbacks out there from the NFL other than this week. But I would tell you that that at this moment in time, Josh Allen's going to be in the top two quarterbacks. Patrick Mahomes obviously is going to be up there, but he's got his work cut out for him because I don't think Kansas City's as good as they shown in the past. So, and they plus in a tough division. But I will tell you that Football Outsiders last year, when the Super Bowl came through, and one on our Super Bowl show, I told people, I said, look, according to these numbers and where these people rank and how they rank year to year to year to year, the Super Bowl last year was not of the best teams ever in the NFL. It just wasn't. And then when you put the Bengals in there, the Bengals were a team that really popped in from nowhere and got on a little bit of a run and made it to the Super Bowl. And sure, they played the Rams, who were a good team. But what if I told you in their total DVOA rank, the latest one, the newest one, that Buffalo is 5%. They're 15.8% is the total number, which is really high. Baltimore and the Rams are 10.7 and 10.4. They're 5% better than the next team. They're that dominant. They're that good of an NFL team, and I think that you're gonna see that we should start looking at Buffalo as the premier team in the NFL.
Yeah, Collinsworth was giving Leslie Frazier a big credit throughout the whole game there, and their defense played, spectacular. Now, looking at this, obviously, we know how the market works. We know how the public works, the degens work, overreaction. You're going to get inflated numbers throughout the year on Buffalo. I can't see. I mean, I don't have their schedule in front of me, but I find it hard pressed where they would be an underdog. I mean, even if they went to Kansas City, I think they'd be favored there. If they went to Tampa, I think they'd be favored there. But with that being said, they're
7.5 point favorites at home next Monday night against Tennessee.
Yeah,
7.5.
Yeah, and Tennessee's got the Giants this week.
And Tennessee was the number one AFC seed last season. That doesn't mean they're the number one AFC seed this season, but they were the number one AFC seed last season.
Yeah, well, Scott, that number will be 9 if Tennessee fumbles against the Giants this weekend. With that said, we have 2 college games on the desk tonight. One's intriguing to me. I talked about it this morning with Riley for a few seconds. And that's the UCF and Louisville game. Louisville coming off a dud against Syracuse. The line was 6.5. It did drop to 6. I kind of, an eye opener if you dig deeper and take a look at what their team total is. It's an under over. I think he said around 61 and a half.
61 and a half.
Yeah. They got this game at around 33-27, somewhere in there. I do know some sharp prospective money has come in overnight on Louisville. I don't know your thoughts there.
Well, my initial thoughts were that UCF's a better football team. UCF is in a revenge spot here against Louisville from last season. This is when the quarterback got hurt for UCF last year and broke his collarbone, and he's done. So he didn't play after that. But I will say that it's just like Major League Baseball when a pitcher goes out there and throws poorly the first game, and he comes back and throws pretty well the next. I would expect a better effort from Louisville. Getting beat 31-7 by Syracuse is not a good stand look for them. And that head coach, I forget his name, Scott something. Anyway, he's on the hot seat. So I think that this is a spot where Louisville comes out and plays a lot better. I still think that UCF probably wins the game, but I think Louisville probably is good enough to hang in this game. They got a good quarterback in Malik Cunningham, good enough as a playmaker anyway to keep them in the game. UCF's not that dominant of a football team, so I can see where this game is, 3 points or less. Good game to watch, kind of up and down, back and forth, lots of points. If I were going to lean somewhere, I think both teams can score over 30. So if both teams score over 30, I would start to lean over here.
Shout out to TJ, who was here this morning with me and
Sweet
Riley. Now he's back. He says hello to you. He's got a lot of stuff up there.
Hello, Mr. TJ.
He threw out a question. If Buffalo was the preseason Super Bowl favorites, I think it was one of the NFL shows. All 8 experts not only had Buffalo going to the Super Bowl but winning. Go back in the memory lane. Have you seen a team that started the year with this much hype? I answered TJ's question. Maybe one of the old Brady teams coming off of the 16 or 17 in 1 year against with Moss and them. I don't know of a team, maybe a Mahomes team.
Well, if you remember back, you remember when the 49ers played the Chargers in the Super Bowl?
Yes.
You remember how good the 49ers were? I mean, they were double-digit favorites in the Super Bowl.
They were 16.5-point favorites.
So I think you have to go back to that type era and that type team, because that team, I don't think anybody was probably as good as they were. Now, that being said, football is different today than it was back then, and I think the players are a lot better, and you got a lot more guys that can make plays, and coaches allow the players to make plays today as they didn't do back then. But that would be my thing. I would say the 49ers probably back then. But at the same time, when you look at this, Buffalo is going to be a team that rightfully so deserves stuff. Now, you got to remember, they still play in cold weather spots and they have bad weather situations, and everybody's going to be targeting that team. So they've got to survive a gauntlet of 17 games nowadays. So anyway, having thinking it through or whatever, you're not going to go 17-0 in the NFL anymore.
MLB, we had an amazing Sunday last week. We went 3-0, hit all 3 parlays for 20 units, come out of the gate Monday 1-0, Tuesday 2-0. I got cute on Wednesday, smacked me right in the ass 0-3. Last night we had the Rams +3 and lost, and we had a real kick in the you-know-what. We had the Marlins first 5. They scored 3 first to get the lead, so you think with Alcantara you're in. It's 3-3. Then I get a homer in the 5th from Joey Wendell to take a 4-3 lead. Then the bottom of the 5th, first 2 guys get out, and then a grounder to whoever and an error on Schwarber. Next thing you know, first and second and a triple, and I lose 5-4, first 5. And then the Bastards win 6-5 in 9 innings. Big slate tonight. I know we're down to the last 3.5, 4 weeks. What are you seeing today on today's slate?
Well, a couple things. First off, before I jump into the baseball, I am playing a college football game tonight, and I'm playing Boise State. Boise State is minus 17. Now, I bet it at minus 16.5. I'm okay at minus 17. Obviously you push it 17, but I like the idea here that they're playing New Mexico. And let me just hit you with a couple things and I'll get into baseball. So last year, Boise State opened with a loss to UCF 36-31, and then they played UTEP. Okay, so UTEP's not any different than New Mexico. If UTEP might even be better than New Mexico for all that matters. They beat them 54-13. And then they beat New Mexico last year 37-0. The year before that, they played and they beat them. I'm not sure, not the year before that. That was the COVID season, but 2019 they beat them 42-9. So this has been a non-competitive series, and it's been a 33-point margin for the wins by Boise State against New Mexico. New Mexico is 1-12 against the spread at home off of a game where they won by 7 or more points. So that don't happen very often, and they're only 1-12 in those spots. Okay, they beat Maine. That's who they beat, and everybody's going, "Oh my God, they beat Maine. They must be pretty good." And they beat them pretty handily. I mean, Maine didn't. I don't think Maine even scored a touchdown. Maybe they scored. I know they scored less than 10 points. Put it that way. But do you know who Maine is? Do people know? Maine got beat by James Madison 55-7. Okay, this is Maine. This is not an FBS team. So I, you don't remember Boise State's got 17 guys coming back. In New Mexico in the last 10 games, they have a point deficit margin of 300 against an 85-4. They're down 215 points. And you want to tell me that you want to start betting on New Mexico? Okay, go ahead, take New Mexico. I'm playing Boise State, and that's just one of those games where you just sit there and go, okay, let's just put it up and let's just do it. And there's not much thought to it, right? But there's a little thought that you go through some of that stuff. Now, baseball wise, I would tell you that a couple of things are changing a little bit here. Fangraphs now has Atlanta and the New York Mets tied at the end. And they also have the Chicago White Sox and the Cleveland Guardians tied at the end. I think that you've seen the White Sox play a little better without having their head guru in there to make them sick all the time. Because I think Tony La Russa did that, made them all sick. Anyway, get him out of there, and they feel a lot better, and they're healthy, and they scored 10, 13, 12 runs, whatever it is, against Oakland. That's what they're supposed to do. So going into these last few weeks, I'm almost convinced already that the playoffs are already there. I mean, in terms of who's in, what the seedings are might change a little bit, but I think Milwaukee's out, and I think everybody who's already in the National League's already there. And I think in the American League, they're all there too, other than who wins the American League Central, and that's still open for debate. I don't think Minnesota is going to get there, so I think it's between Cleveland and the White Sox. So we'll see what happens. Now, having said all that, I did make 2 plays today, and I'll just go over those real quick. The first game that I played is Toronto and Texas. Toronto is playing pretty well. I think they're 8-2 or 7-3 the last 10, making some moves in the American League East, and they're playing a team in Texas who's 1-9 in the last 10 games. The other issue that I saw with that game, and I'm going to pull up my note for a second. Toronto's 14-6 in the last 20, and what was really interesting is versus right-handed pitching, they're 21 games above 500. Toronto, they're not good against lefties for whatever reason, but Texas is terrible against right-handed. They're minus 21 games over 500 against left or right-handed pitching, and they're 5-18 in the last 20, and they're 1-9 in the last 10 games. And now you bring in a guy in Stripling against Dunning, and Dunning is a guy that's, in these lanes, a lot of people like to say leaking oil. Okay, well, I don't really like to say leaking oil. They are what they are. Your numbers are what they are. Last 7 starts, he's a 48 game score. 48, that's not very good. And Stripling's a 62.5. That's ace-like. He's been pretty dominant. He's a 56 on the season, and Dunning's a 48 on the season. Dunning's faced this team once already this season. It was real early in the year. They threw a game score 44 at him. So it's not like he was sitting there going, okay, well, you can't hit me. So I like the idea here that you've got Stripling, who has a 2.91 Sierra number, against Dunning, who's got a 4.78 number. And then when you look at expected WOBA number over the last 30 days, Dunning's a 384, and you want that number to be more in the 320s or lower. So he's a way above average of getting, guys getting hits and getting on base. And Stripling is a .201, And then you see that again in the whip rate, 0.82 versus 177. So almost 1 3/4 guys, 2 guys getting on base per inning for against Dunning. So I think you got Texas lined up here. When I bet the game, I got minus 145 on Toronto, and right now the game is, depending on where you shop, you can get it at 146 at Westgate, 146 at South Point. Well, it's 150 on DraftKings. So on the internet, it's 150 or a little bit higher, 153 at Bookmaker. So
what's the run line, Scotty?
The run line. Let me flip it to the run line. Is Stripling minus 1.5 plus 110. And you can get like Bookmaker, you can get it at plus 107. Caesars minus 1.5 plus 115. If you go the other side is plus 1.5. They're minus 130s. The total in that game is 8, and it opened at 7.5. So moving up. Anyway, that's my thoughts on the first game that I bet. And then I don't know how you cannot do this, but so I bet on the Dodgers tonight. I took Mr. May tonight against Clevenger. Now Clevenger, he's just been pretty bad. I mean, I don't his last 7 starts is a 46.6. His last 3 starts is a 40 in terms of game score. And for the season, he's a 51. So he's just been an average pitcher, and he's supposed to be better than average. But what's interesting is he's terrible against the Dodgers. I mean, he's pitched against the Dodgers a few times and got blown up almost every single time he's pitched against them. He pitched against them earlier. He pitched against them twice. He pitched a game score 30 and a game score 27. That's not very good. That's actually very bad. So he's got an expected WOBA number of 371. Now this is in his last 30 days, but against the Dodgers, it's a 419. So it's not like he's out there fooling the Dodger hitters. And May is off of a game score 26. It was the worst start he's had, and it was against these Padres. So I expect him to have a nice start. I expect him to pitch pretty well. I expect him to make the adjustments necessary. He's still got 10.13 strikeouts per 9 innings. And I think that he's in a spot where he's going to do just fine tonight. I played him at minus 154. And they are currently, you can still get them. You can get them at like Westgate at minus 152, CIRCA minus 155. Internet prices, you're going to be in the 160. But that's what I played him at. So I played those 2 games with the idea that I think the White Sox, the Guardians, and I think the Rays are also viable opportunities. I just didn't play them.
What was the run line on the Dodgers?
The run line on the Dodgers is bump. There it is. Where is it? Where'd they go? Dodgers. Oh, there they are. Dodgers. Minus 1.5 is plus 105 at Westgate, plus 105 at South Point, plus 100 at DraftKings, minus 101 at Bookmaker.
All right. What else you seen on the board?
Well, what I saw that I had interest in, I think the Rays should be a nice choice over the Yankees tonight. I think Rasmussen's good. I think Montas is off of his best game as a Yankee, and I look. He's pitched against. Here's what people are going to see, and they're going to look this up when they see the numbers. Montas has pitched how many times? Where's that game at? Montas, there he is. Montas has pitched 3 times against Tampa Bay this season, and his game score average is 70 against Tampa Bay. Like, he's just dominated Tampa Bay 3 times. That doesn't mean he's going to do it a 4th time, and usually means he won't do it a 4th time. He's off of a game score 74, and his last 7 starts is a game score 44.7. So I like the idea that Montas is going to be trash, and I think that you're going to find that The Rays, who have been on a bit of a run here, are going to continue their run, and I think they're going to do just fine tonight against the Yankees. And I think that that's one of those spots where it's a little misleading. But you can still get the Rays at 100, I guess, even money. It's a pick 'em in a lot of places. The bookmaker now has it 105, 105. So you can get it at a lot of places. Looks like CIRCA is minus 110 on the Rays. And you know what? The Yankees are putting a minor league team out there right now. I mean, look at their lineup. LeMahieu's not playing. He's on the disabled list. These guys are just not, putting the right team. They don't have all their big stars out there. So I think that's an opportunity. I think that the White Sox probably, you got to find a way to play them. But I think, if you can withstand Giolito, you're going to do better standing him than you are going to be riding Caprillion. So go ahead and jump on the White Sox.
Well, our guest has entered the building. I don't know if it was a little cameo, as in we'll come in on time. You can always come in early and enjoy the show, Mr. Lucky, and you can listen along. We're here, and today is the debut of Mr. Lucky's LOX and Bagels, Mr. Lucky's Lobby, Mr. Lucky's Corner, whatever you want to call it. A good friend of ours. Was blessed to have met him in Vegas. We broke bread. We were at the CIRCA, met his, I'd like to say his amigos from West Virginia, and always great conversation. Someone with years and years and years of NFL experience, and now he has entered the building. So without further ado, let's bring him in his debut, the one and only Mr. Lucky himself.
Greetings, mi amigos, the odds couple.
Lucky.
Mr. Lucky.
It's an honor to be here, folks, gentlemen. Hey, Scott, you brought your Florida weather out here in California. It's about 95 balmy, and we're getting rain soon.
Well, I've been monsooned on all day today, so I would much prefer not that it go to you necessarily, but to go somewhere else. God damn it.
Hey, Jeff, I apologize. Sean McVay had called me. I took the call. He assured me that Robinson will be available for week 2.
I tell you, the set Scotty knows here. I am as dumb as a bag of bricks with this, and I was trying to get you to to have that thing crawl. Next week we'll have it crawl, but you can follow Mr. Lucky at Follow Fade on Twitter. I got some hashtags up there for you, Mr. Lucky's LOX and Bagels and Mr. Lucky's Lobby. Mr. Lucky,
Yes,
you were at the game yesterday. My initial thoughts very simply were this. Mr. McVay didn't have an answer for Von Miller, number one. Number two, offensively, the running game is not there. Henderson is their number one right now. Did not get Mr. Robinson involved. I mean, you cannot go with Cooper Kupp and a cloud of dust. You're not going to win that way. Fortunate enough to be 10-10 at halftime, and then the Bills just flexed their muscles. Me and Scotty were talking when the show started. Listen, these guys were the preseason favorites, not just to be coming out of the AFC, but to win the Super Bowl. And they made a statement. You were there live. What'd you see?
Well, I think you're correct. I think the Rams probably left their game in the clubhouse, in the locker room. I didn't buy into the Super Bowl rings. I thought when Odell showed up, it would give him a little bit of life. And to be honest, the Bills made a statement from the very get-go. I mean, Josh Allen, who I've been high on for 2 or 3 years, he's a tremendous player. Playmaker, has guts, can beat you so many ways. They just beat him at every angle. I mean, line of scrimmage. And I thought the Rams were very fortunate. As you said, they were very lucky to be tied at half. I was happy. Full disclosure, I put pizza and Coke money on the game. I fell for the trap. McVay 5-0 against the spread. McVay does well in week 1. Vegas is a lot smarter than I or you or Scott. They knew something was up, and that line smelled a little bit. But my biggest take from the game, though, Scott and Jeff, was Buffalo's second half dominance. I mean, you think the Rams tied at half? That halftime speech is, "Hey guys, we can win this game. We've got the ball right out of the gate. We got the ball." And they did nothing. I mean, the number one, the kickoff return was horrible. It backed them up, and the key to the game too, I thought, was the sacks. There were some key sacks at some moments, and you know, I had texted you, I think, earlier, Jeff, and I said, "What Stafford are we getting? The good Stafford or the bad Stafford?" Yeah, McVay said the passes were tipped, but bottom line is the results were he wasn't very good, and they were just completely thrashed. Week one, we know it's not an overreaction, but I don't think the Rams are more than a 10-win team this year. They've got a very tough schedule. They're facing a lot of good quarterbacks. I don't think their defense is as good as it was last year. I think Bobby Wagner is close to AARP discount age. Great player, but I thought the Rams. I thought Buffalo showed why they're the team to beat. That was my pick.
The Rams fan base, and I was just following a few guys on Twitter. It was comical, as in they were saying everything that you just said. They were saying how pitiful the Rams were. Oh my God, 10 wins or less. I even saw some so-called experts said the elbow is definitely in play here. And the comment, if you watched the game, Stafford was in pressure the whole time. No one else was getting open. Even he tried to force one into Higbee. He drops it. The lack of Allen Robinson, the lack of Cam Akers. And on that overthrown interception, it was the no look to the right, and then it was the no look pass. And I'm just going to say this, outside looking in. It was the worst matchup that you could have had. You get your rings, you get the banners, the whole primetime stage, and in come the Bills, which I have said all along on this show. People remember more about the last minute of Buffalo, Kansas City, and the overtime than they do of the Rams winning the Super Bowl.
Absolutely right. And another thing, I don't know if the announcers pointed this out being there, but the Rams missed Whitworth. That was very evident. He was a big loss in that offensive line. And McVay assured me that they're going to get some draft picks to boost up that offensive line. That's a joke. So I don't know. I mean, obviously, I think Scott had mentioned it, that it's a Super Bowl preview. It could be. The NFC, I don't think, is strong enough this year to beat anybody in the AFC. But we'll see. One game. Buffalo lost last year to Pittsburgh at home week one, and everybody said, "Oh my God, the Bills." The Mafia called Don Corleone and said, "What's going on this year?" So you never know. But I will tell you this, to finish my thought, I wasn't so upset at the fact the Rams lost my wager and yours. I'm down 81-0 in fantasy. My opponent had 3 Bills in the game.
Oh, he's a smart man. He's a smart man.
So TJ asked a question down there that said, "Hey, look, he understands basically that the Rams are maybe only as good as Stafford goes, but can their defense lead them to wins?" And I guess that's a pretty good question to ask. But I would classify that and say, well, obviously it depends on what offense they're playing. Mm-hmm. So if they match up well, and they can hold opponent's defense down or opponent's offense down, then you got a shot. But when you're facing one of the elite offenses, I don't know that, in today's NFL, you can have a great defense and today's offenses are going to move the football. It's just the way it works. When they scored 31 points on the Rams last night, and the Rams have a pretty good defense. So when I sit there and say that, it's hard for a defense to lean on to say, okay, we're going to get you wins.
9 for 10 on third down conversions. That's a backbreaker. I mean, I'll attribute that to the defensive effort, but 9 out of 10 third down conversion, gentlemen.
Jalen Ramsey got schooled. Diggs had it his way. Like I said, at one point, Allen had 10 completions to 9 different players. And for me, from a fantasy standpoint, I have some Allen. I have some Diggs. My big play is on Gabriel Davis. He scores the first touchdown of the season in the NFL. It was just it was a statement game. It was. And you
Absolutely.
talked about the Bills home opener last year. 6.5-point favorites against Pittsburgh, and they lost outright. Rams will get a few days to sit in this shit, and they got the Falcons next week, so it's a good get-well game. Before we dig into the CIRCA, Mr. Lucky,
Yes, sir.
Years and years of experience. You love the NFL. We have been talking at length about the first few weeks are kind of a watch and see why the public and the degens piss away all their money, and then they're broke by November 1st and they don't make it to Thanksgiving. But with that said, you've taken a look at the first week games. You got one game under your belt. What are you seeing? Is there anything that has piqued your interest, or is it still going to be a wait and see just on the betting card, not the CIRCA card?
So on the betting card, I am generally, and thank you for that intro, Jeff. I mean, I've been tracking NFL for a good 30 years, I'd say. Pops taught me well, taught me to respect the opening line. I've heard that before. I typically leave weeks 1 and 2 alone, meaning I don't put a lot of action into the games because, frankly, anything can happen. What sticks out to me week 1 this year is you had 10 road favorites. That's I believe that's a record. Don't quote me on that, but I believe that's an all-timer. And I tend to and when I peruse through these games, I tend to want to pick few dogs. And I find it to be a very difficult card. However, that being said, I have no choice this year. I'm in the CIRCA. I decided to celebrate my upcoming 60th birthday. God, I'm 60. Wow. I'll be 60. I said, hey, why not? Let's have fun with it. So I've got to get 5 games. I've got an appointment at 3:30 with Freud to figure out how to do this. But I'm happy to talk about some games I do like. I've got an eye on a couple of dogs I like. There's a couple of trends I want to share with the audience and you folks that I like to look at. So we'll see. We'll have fun. Hopefully we'll go 5-0.
All right. Well, if you want, you have the card in front of you. I know you get that on Wednesday night. I know some people are sitting there 1-0 with Buffalo. I know there's some people sitting there 0-1 with the Rams. Your pick's got to be in either later tonight or tomorrow morning, correct?
Yeah, we're going to probably have those in tonight. I'll go over some trends that I think are noteworthy for everyone. If you like the Falcons and the Saints game, I've got a couple of reasons to take the Saints. That will not be on my card. But the Falcons are 0-6 straight up, 0-6 against the spread in week 1. Now, is a trend your friend? Yeah, it can be, but it just depends on the situation, on the spot. One of the games I am looking at in the card, Scott and Jeff, is the Niners. But is it going to be Broken Lance or Trey Lance? Bears are 0-6 as a home dog, their last 6. Niners are 4-0 their last 4 on the road, if you like trends. The one I do like, my initial lean was on the Steelers. It's a division game. Do we buy the hype of 2021? A very good Cincinnati team, but they are the Super Bowl loser. Steelers play them well. And a little trend here. The Bengals are 10-21-1 the last 32 at home against the Steelers. If you believe in Mitch Trubisky, like I don't, I say the Steelers are the play. I'm going to jump in, I think, on the Steelers. That's one of my that'll be probably one of my 5. Um, I do like the Ravens on the road. I think the Ravens are in their 2022 tour, Super Bowl tour. Full disclosure, I have a future on the Ravens to win the Super Bowl. I have a future on Lamar Jackson to win MVP. Thank you, Josh Allen. I like the Ravens this year. I think that I think they've got hopefully their health back. They've got Dobbins back. I like Mark Andrews. He's on my fantasy team. The Jets are 0-5 as a home dog of 3-10. I think the Jets will be improved, but I do like the Ravens there. I've got a pass. I don't know how you both feel about it, but I'm definitely passing the Baker Mayfield Bowl.
Well, let me interrupt right there because I was going to ask you an important question. As you know, you've been following myself and Scott for a while now. Me and Scott are exact opposites. Scott digs in, creates his own lines. He's got more initials than Webster's dictionary. And then for me, I read the market. I see opening numbers. I see overnight numbers. I see the way the market's going. I get the breakdowns from numerous sources. It's, as you know, it's Fade the Public Friday. Don't be the pizza man with the pizza on the oven. You understand all this, yet you're coming out initially here talking about past trends and angles and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So two-part question. Do past performances, trends, does that weigh more into your thought process versus the market? That's number one. Number two, Ralph Michaels, I think, has Cleveland has 1-16 their last 17 in openers. Yet Vegas only opened up Baker Mayfield -1.5. And if I am correct, maybe Scotty can look right now. I think there was some overnight sharp money coming in on the Browns, and that game is now a pick 'em.
I tend to do both, but I tend to look at trends more as the season goes along because I think there are team trends that matter. You've got teams that haven't won in 10, 15 years at times in certain spots. I would take the Browns in that game, but the Browns have not won a season opener since the Steelers, I believe 04, 05. I could be wrong on that, but I think it's been about 17, 18 years now that they have won. So to answer that, I look at trends, but I also look at the spot. The first thing that I try and look on the board is what is most likely to happen. So I'll look at all the games and I'll ask myself that question: what is most likely to happen? And then I'll look at the road dogs and I'll see at certain points in the season, how are they playing? How are they not playing? I'll be honest, I'm not smart enough to look at the line movement as much as I should. What works for me is, I stick to basic formulas, and we'll get into that a little bit more as the season goes along. There's a couple of things I look at from a humanistic point of view. These guys are still human beings, and sometimes they just come out flat, and sometimes there's no rhyme or reason as to why a team will cover or win. It's just a streak. I mean, last year Philly went on a late season run that you'll both remember. I mean, it didn't matter what happened. It didn't matter if they fell behind 7-0 or 10-0. You knew they were going to cover that game. So I don't get caught up too much in the line movement. However, I'll look at a public. What is John Q. Public doing? John Q. Public this week will love the Bucks. That's at 2.5. John Q. Public probably will like the Chiefs. So I don't know if that answers your complete question, but I tend to look at both, and trends matter to me more at the middle of the year. I think after week 3 or 4, we know what we have in the NFL. We have a good understanding of, are we 3-0, 3-1? Is that team 0? Because a lot of teams will be 0-2. And if you're 0-2, I mean, the Rams lose next week, we'll see what happens week 3.
They won't lose next week.
They won't. I mean, they have Atlanta. So I think I'm putting a little more into the trend this year, only because week 1 is like going to the crap table and hoping everybody wins and nobody rolls a 7 after the come out roll. I mean, it's anybody's guess. So I'll be honest, it's a tough week to whoever goes 5-0 this week, amen to them. But I am a trend player, and I'm also a situational handicapper, if you will. I mean, I don't sell picks. I consider myself a professional NFL bettor, but I'm definitely very low volume. Play very few totals.
I'm going to follow up here with TJ before my next question. TJ, I think for the Browns, you're going to see a Brissett that, I think we had a show earlier this week that someone said his under-over on attempts was 29.5, and he's only done that like 3 times. I think you'll see a lot of Chubb. I think you'll see a lot of Hunt. You're going to play keep Baker on the field. I don't think they want to get into that shootout. First 1 to 30 wins there. But with that said, Mr. Lucky, you said some stuff that hit some chords in this regard to me. I was a part of the Westgate a handful of years ago, my first contest. That's where I was introduced to Kelly Stewart, Kelly in Vegas, now with Barstools. She interviewed me for 45 minutes on the potential Showtime clip that they had the 4-part series, and then Vegas Dave beat me out, of all people. Vegas Dave beat me out, so that was kind of a sting there. And then we wanted to beat Brent Musburger going into the last week. Top 100 got paid. We were 65th. Brent was 64th, and we had one of those pivotal games where everyone was on Indy. We took Tennessee. Indy got out 14-0. Thanks for playing. We finished outside the top 100. Brent finished in the 40s. But you said something that was glaring to me. 2 things. The card comes out on Wednesday. It's the first week, and oh shit, I got to pick 5 games. Now, you cannot win this contest in week 1. And the good thing about the CIRCA is there's also 4 quarterly prizes. Now, with that said, last year you had to win over 70% to be the overall winner, number 1. Number 2, in these quarterlies, 18-2.
Yeah.
17, 2-1. So 0-5, 1-4
Right.
start, and you're really back against the wall. And I can almost feel a little shit. It's showtime. So how are you feeling right now, Mr. Lucky?
Well, I trust my eyes. I trust my system, if you will. I trust my trends. I try to not change from Tuesday to Wednesday. In this case, I started looking at this on Monday. I want to mention a couple other trends here that really caught my eye. And I'm very, very much looking forward to what are we going to get out of Kirk Cousins and the Vikings this year. They have played very well against Mr. Rodgers and company at home. The Zimmer era is over with. I like the Vikings week 1. Now, both teams have very good defenses. The secondary of Green Bay, as Chicago's finest would know, Mr. Riley Magnuson, their secondary is terrific, as good as anybody's, and their safety is terrific. But, I think the Vikings with Kevin, I'm interested in Kevin O'Connell, what kind of vibe he will give Minnesota. My source in Minnesota, who is my brother-in-law, he's very high on the Vikings. But he's been high on the Vikings since Bud Grant, for those of you that remember those teams.
Fran Tarkenton.
Yep.
The Purple People Eaters.
There's a lot of games here, and I don't know if you and Scott agree, if you've looked at the card, but I mean, if there's 2 or 3 games here, you would have to basically Venmo me $100, and I'll Venmo you back $300 and say thanks for playing. I mean, if you want to play the Eagles and the Lions, good luck. Lions are 4-0 at home as a dog, their last 4. Hard knocks. I'm not touching the Chargers and the Raiders. I don't think the Chargers are as good as people think. and I don't think the Raiders are as bad as people think. But I don't like I've made money over the years betting against the Chargers at home. In fact, if you like to know, for the people out there, because we are here for the people, Chargers, their last 61 home games, 21-40 against the spread. By all means, take the Chargers on Sunday if you like. I'll have that game off my radar. What do you gentlemen think about the Bucks and the Cowboys?
Scotty, take it away.
What do you think about those Bucks?
I think you take the line out of it and play the money line and bet Tampa Bay on the money line. The reason I say that is because all this noise about Tampa Bay and the quarterback is noise.
Yep.
And they might not cover 3 points. I don't know. But I find it interesting that Bruce Arians won't be there. And I think that will loosen this team up. I don't think the team liked Bruce Arians, to be honest. I don't think Tom Brady liked Bruce Arians. And I think when he found out Bruce Arians was going to go, or whichever way that happened, he came back and Bruce Arians wasn't there. So I think that makes a difference in Tampa Bay. And I think that all you hear about with the Cowboys is the head coach he's a nightmare. And what are they going to do on the offensive line? Of course, you got the same problem on the Bucs offensive line. But I think beyond CeeDee Lamb, Dallas doesn't have an offense. And I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. I just mean that in a sense that, that I don't like the running backs anymore. I think Ezekiel Elliott's old. And I don't like the backups and the second receivers. And I think you can put somebody on Tampa Bay can cover CeeDee Lamb. And I think that, Tom Brady's smart and he's going to be able to move the football. And if they play from ahead, I think that Dallas going to have trouble.
Yeah, and I think I agree. And I also think that I could see Monday morning ESPN spending an hour and a half. How could we think that Tom Brady is 45 and he can't play? Listen, I learned a long time ago, you don't bet against Tom Brady. I mean, even Mother Teresa, bless her soul, she knows you can't bet against Tom Brady. So, the only thing about that game that might keep me off the CIRCA contest is Cowboys are 7-0. Their last 7 is a home dog.
Well, I mean, I can look at a lot of team numbers and I see trends and I see a lot of stuff a lot of times. And I will respectfully say it this way. One of the things that I look at is not teams, because when it comes to teams, they change people, they change coaches, they change a lot of stuff. So I like it better when you say, okay, a home team in this situation, whatever that situation is, they're off of 7-point losses. And now they're going to play a division rival at home. They win X number of times, because now you have multiple different teams that fit those trends and you have multiple different things. So I believe in those. When it comes to teams in baseball, you have streaks and you have different things and you can quantify that and you can go pretty well, because there's 162 games in a season. And as long as you're not using data from last year on these streaks and stuff, you can probably get a reasonably good idea. But when you're only playing 17, 18 games, I know how that stuff works when you have a team and it depends on what you look at, right? So I'm not going to sit here and tell you that people don't win because they bet trends, because they do, and that puts them on the right side of things. But I would use those kinds of trends as a solidifier, meaning that, okay, I've done my handicapping. Oh, and look at this. This helps me solidify what my handicap was, as opposed to that is my handicap, and that's the reason why I'm betting the game, because I hope people don't do that.
And a lot of time, absolutely, I agree 100% with that. And there's a lot of eye test too. Right? Because now I don't play in game. I don't play props. I don't play in game. I'm very old fashioned. In fact,
Well, you might start playing in game or hanging around with us.
Jeff mentioned it earlier. Jeff's absolutely right. I mean, I'm old school. If you can run the football, you will win in the NFL. You will win in the NFL if you can run the football at the right times. Um, it's an intriguing week one. Not only because I'm in the circuit, I don't know what the hell to choose on the 5. I'm going to text Scott here in about an hour and Venmo him $200 for his top plays. But it's going to be fun because you've got 4 or 5 coaches I'm very interested in. Real quick, I know that we cannot go another few minutes here without talking about Bill versus the Dolphins in South Beach. I don't know, Jeff. That Captain Hook has me very worried now. I was on the Dolphins very, very much all week, but that Captain Hook, and then I saw a stat with Ralph Michaels about revenge, has me a little worried. Question for you, Jeff, or trivia question for you, Jeff. What did the Dolphins do last year against Bill?
Tua is 3-0 lifetime against Bill. And to be perfectly honest with you, opening day in Foxborough last year, Patriots had that game won, and back-to-back turnovers cost them not just the win, but the outright win from the Dolphins. My 2 cents on this game, it was stuck at 2.5 forever. The Patriots have looked pathetic all preseason, and yet it took an act of God to finally get it to 3.5. And they're playing in South Beach in September, which again doesn't usually bode well for them. It smells to me, I know the Patriots are slow starting teams, usually 2-2 through the first month. Then they get heated up as they get ready for their week bye. Gun to my head, I think the Dolphins win. Would I be shocked if Bill and Mac Jones opened it up?
Right.
No, I wouldn't. But I know for a fact they don't have the defense to cover Tyreek and Waddle in the same sentence.
Yeah. Tua is a wait and see for me. I do like what I see in the Dolphins. I think that there's enthusiasm down there. I just don't see much. I am not a totals player, but if I'm going to give out one total this week, that has to be a 2013 game. 17. That's got the makings to me of an under. Just my 2 cents. But it'll be interesting too. Wait and see. He's got the I believe 1-2 last year in yards after catch in Waddle and Hill. And real quick, Jeff, not that you don't know this, but I thought I'd share it with you. The Browns running attack, I think, is going to be very, very strong. They stay healthy. I still think they're going to be in the playoff hunt. They've got a great trio there, a duo, excuse me. And I believe they're at the top. They were either second or third last year in rushing. So Browns could be sneaky good. Lastly, I cannot leave this show without talking about my New York Giants. Yes, Mr. Lucky is a Giants fan. Jeff.
Feel bad for you this year.
I played a couple of team futures this year, Jeff and Scott, and one of them was the Giants over 7 wins. What do you think?
Is Phil Simms QB in, or is it Eli Manning?
Yeah, I like the Giants on Sunday, plus the points.
I did too, and then I thought it became a public trendy dog there. Scotty, any closing thoughts for Mr. Lucky?
So one of these shows, I don't remember when it was, but I bought into this Pro Football Outside, and I use a lot of websites, so I try to give them credit for what they do. And this is the I don't know if you can see it. This is the almanac for this year, and you can see how it's pretty big. And I've got my tabs in there, and I've read about all the teams. One of the things that I thought was the best thing that they did, it's in their very beginning part of it. And, they're a stats group, and they're going to create power rankings and numbers, and they're famous for DVOA. That's their numbers. But it's in the pregame show is what they call it. And the very first thing, it says, okay, we've been around now for 19 years, and we're making these almanacs, and we're doing this stuff. And then they're going to say, here's some premises that you got to understand about the NFL football. And the number one thing that is written here, and in my world, I don't know if it shows up on here, but it doesn't show up real good because it's too bright. It's all highlighted. I got it. So the number one thing says, you run when you win, not win when you run. So NFL is about the complementary run game to the pass, solidifying the win when you can run out the clock at the end. So I don't look at teams anymore like I used to. Back when I first started this, it was all about who could run the ball and who could stop the run. Today, the game has changed, and if your philosophy hasn't sort of moved away towards passing, I think that you got to understand that there's a couple. And the other thing that was dramatic to me, because there's a couple other things, right? So another note right after that says, a great defense against the run is nothing without a good pass defense. So if you can't stop the pass, but you can stop the run, you're going to lose. That's what it means. And the other thing that I thought was a great point that they said that was in here, then this is something that I basically just learned. So this was great. Is where is it? Field position is fluid, but field position means a lot. So so here was the point. It says a bad offense will score as many points as a good offense if it starts each drive 5 yards closer to the end zone. Think about that. So does your punter make sense now? Does your special teams make sense now? Where do you go with field position and decisions that coaches make? And if you look at field position as a way to handicap football games, you're going to understand those 5 yards matter. And I didn't know that. I didn't know that. So now I have been looking at games, or will be looking at games, much differently as this season progresses, in a sense of field position matters and where the ball is and how many yards do you have to go to score. Because the other thing that I've always looked at is, okay, total data numbers. All right, well, if you look at the first quarter through the fourth quarter, okay, that's the whole game, and that's your data numbers, right? Well, what's the most important data number sets? Well, it's the fourth quarter. It is. And if you're not good in the fourth quarter, you can be bad in the first, in the second, in the third. And if you're good in the fourth, you're going to win and cover games. That is the most precious time and the best time to understand how good a football team is. So when I look at these numbers and I start to look at where these teams go, I think my strategy goes quarterback. I need a good quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
I need to know what kind of wide receivers they're throwing the ball to, what kind of defense is going to stop the pass, what kind of transitions are we going to have in game flow in relation to where the ball is on the field, and then in the fourth quarter, who's going to be able to do what? Can our defense stop the run and keep them in a game, or is the defense not going to be able to stop the run? They're going to run all over them, and they can't stop anything. So the point being is that I think that in my way of handicapping games and looking at what I'm doing for this season, it's changed a little bit in a sense that I know that passing is the number one way to score points. I know that elite offenses will beat elite defenses unless they're going to put points on the board. They just will. The rules make it that way, not because the defenses can't stop them. It's the rules of how defenses have to play against them. So I think that when you get to a point where you're starting to do these things, those are the encapsulation points that I'm looking for. And then when I hit some on that stuff, I'm like, here we go. I got it. This is what I want to do. And then I'm going to use situational analysis, trends, and things to help support those thoughts and ideas.
Yeah, that's really good. And to your point, that's why in a lot of games in the NFL, and you can do this, and I'm sure you both do this, there will be several games this week where a team will win the yardage battle, but will not cover the spread or win. And it's because you have 2 or 3 teams in that scenario that will be 3 for 3 in the red zone on 30 or 40-yard drives based on turnovers.
Yep.
And that's something that I use quite a bit, especially as the season progresses. Because you and I, we know you cannot handicap turnovers. You just, that's the killer in all this, for all of us. But that's a fantastic point, Scott, because I don't even look at it from that angle. What were your possessions? What were your drives? How many plays? How many yards? It's very, very good. Thank you for that. Jeff, you want me to give you my best bet? Because we're going to run into your evening hour.
Yes, you give us your best bet, and I'll wrap her up.
Okay, I'm going to go very, I want to say very publicly dog here. I am going to take the Pittsburgh Steelers plus the points at Cincinnati as my best bet. Now, I do like 2 or 3 other dogs, but I do like the Steelers plus the points.
Well, and you've been with me for a long time. Scotty's been with me a long time. Here's just Mr. Lucky's POD, dog of the day, dog of the week. It's the Pittsburgh Steelers plus the 6.5. I would just piggyback that if you were taking the 6.5, I would strongly suggest, and this is just my point of view, to buy the hook and get to 7. If you lose by 7, at least you push versus losing 27-20 and having the 6.5 there. My closing thoughts.
Excellent point, Jeff, because you're right on this in the CIRCA at 6.5 for the contest.
My closing thoughts, first and foremost, it was a great debut for Mr. Lucky. I can't thank you enough. We're gonna have weeks and weeks and weeks. This is a marathon, not a sprint. I'm super excited for you in the CIRCA Contest. We'll be waiting weekly to see how you did there. Scotty, to piggyback on what you said, if you go back to last night's game, and what really was an eye-opener to me was that Buffalo's offensive line, the look of Singletary, the look of Zach Moss. They even gave the ball to Cook, who fumbled, and they brought him back out there. But my point was this. When they ran with, as you would like to say, conviction. They were getting 4, 5, 6 yards, and they were just running enough to set up the pass, and he was just fishing a barrel.
And they stuck to it, too. There was a couple of sequences where they just stuck to the run. They stuck to the game plan. So I was very impressed with Buffalo. They're going to be very tough to beat. Thank you, gentlemen. It's a pleasure to finally be on a podcast, if you will, with the odds couple. I can't thank you enough. Love you both. Boy, I'm going to come back and look at this reap and oh my God, I'm going to say, oh boy, do I need work. But I enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. I sure hope we hit some winners. Real quick, Jeff, for everybody out there, don't go bananas this week. Okay? Very low volume. Trust your instincts. Look at the games. Look at the stats. We'll be back next week. Weeks 3 and 4 will be better than weeks 1 and 2. You've got 10 road favorites. I will go out on a limb, or I will walk to Cape Cod. 9 remaining road favorites will not cover the spread.
From myself, Jeff Dawson at EC Sports Invest, from the one and only Scotty Webb at Webby.mlb.com, right? Jeez, it's been so damn long, Scotty. And the one and only Mr. Lucky at Follow Fade. We wish everyone a great evening, a great weekend. Remember, don't be the pizza guy. No West Coast action, no pizza on the oven, no couch, no pillow, no blanket, unless that's where you want to be. So from all three of us, we wish everyone the best of luck. Stay in your lanes.
Thank you, Scott, Jeff.
Thank you, guys, and we will
Thanks.
see you soon.
Thank you,
Have a
Mr.
great
Lucky.
weekend. Have a great weekend, guys. Get some